Now, before we proceed, we still have one candidate who will share her insights on what has been tackled in the panel discussion. Unfortunately, she expressed regrets on not being able to participate in live in today's forum, but she made sure that she had a video or something to present before us. Without further ado, she is a lawyer and a law professor. She was also a former chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights, serving from 2008 to 2010, former Justice Secretary from 2010 to 2015, and former Senator from 2016 to 2022. She is running as a candidate for the 2025 Philippine House Representatives election under the Mamamayang Liberal or ML party list. Here is former Senator Laila De Lima with her video presentation.
Magandang hapon, or as we say in our Bicolano language, marhay na hapon po sa gabos. Good afternoon, everyone. First, allow me to thank the Green Convergence for Safe Food, Healthy Environment, and Sustainable Economy, or GC, for this invitation. I'm both honored and humbled to be invited and to be part of a panel that includes two distinguished and accomplished women leaders, Congresswoman Franz Castro and former COA Commissioner Heidi Mendoza. Unfortunately, I cannot join you actively or in person at this afternoon's event, as my calendar is quite full given the necessary demands of the campaign period. I thus request for your kind understanding. With your indulgence, allow me to instead share this video about my thoughts on the event and my answers to some of the questions to be discussed in this important panel discussion. Green Convergence is an organization that our country needs, especially in these challenging times of climate change. In my opinion, Green Convergence is a coalition to be admired and commended for its important contributions to raising awareness among the Filipino people of very important issues about the environment, about progressive and equitable development, and about sustainability. Climate injustice, like the social injustice, is rearing its ugly head. As you know, the Philippines regularly ranks among the most vulnerable countries to the adverse effect of climate change, and yet the country's contribution to global carbon emissions is very small, minuscule even at less than 1%. At this afternoon's Kamayan para sa Kalikasan Forum, the theme is Women, Environment, Governance. In my opinion, these are issues very much connected in the sense that women have contributed a lot and will continue to make significant contributions in both the pursuit of good governance and advocating for the interests of the environment. Looking at history, okay, let's focus on recent history. The 20th century has seen women leaders like Golda Meir in Israel, Indira Gandhi in India, and Cory Aquino in the Philippines, who became heads of state of their respective countries and raised national pride for their people. They're very good statesmen. Yup, that word statesman, which refers to a skilled, experienced, and well-respected political leader, should be changed to stateswoman, as more and more the word statesman, with the likes of Putin and Duterte as Exhibit 1A and 1B, is becoming an oxymoron. In this 21st century, we have women leaders around the world who are pushing more and more the envelope of good governance and sustainable development. We have New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and her 40% women cabinet declaring a climate emergency in 2020. They set in motion a plan to make New Zealand's public sector carbon neutral by 2025. In the EU, we have Ursula von der Leyen as the first woman to become president of the European Commission in 2019. She was elected for a second mandate by the European Parliament in July 2024 and will lead the European Commission until the European elections in 2029. Under her leadership, the European Commission recently unveiled its ambitious Clean Industrial Deal, which is the cornerstone of the European Green Deal, the EU's overarching plan to achieve climate neutrality by 2015. The world benefits from good governance visionaries like Jacinda Ardern and Ursula von der Leyen, all women. Here in our country, Attorney Leni Robredo, the former VP Leni Robredo, is an icon of good governance, not only in our province of Camarines Sur, but all over the archipelago. The Filipino people voted for her in 2016, and she did very good as a vice president during those dark years of the Duterte reign. In 2022, she could have been the president of the Philippines, but the electoral system had other plans. By citing the examples of these women leaders, I hope to have laid convincingly the premise that women and good governance are a healthy mix. Now, on the matter of women and environment. Women are leading the fight to save our planet. It cannot be denied. In the words of internationally recognized lawyer and climate justice activist Farhana Yamin, quote, "Women are completely at the forefront of climate solutions in everyday life," end of quote. I agree. Anecdotally, I know this to be true. I grew up in the province in Iriga City, Camarines Sur, and in the rural areas, women and girls are primarily responsible for securing food and water for their families. In times of hardships in an agricultural economy brought about by drought or low rainfall, rural women work harder and make discarte to make ends meet. I Googled about it, and in the One Earth website, I find out there are a number of reasons why it is critical to empower women in this fight to save our planet. One, women are the most impacted by the effects of climate change. There is a UN study that estimates that of those displaced by climate change, 80% are women. And a 21-year study with a sample of 141 countries found that more women die from disaster events than men. However, despite these hardships, women have demonstrated that when they take charge after environmental disasters, livelihoods improve and effective climate solutions. Which brings me to the next point. 2, women are proven better leaders in time of crisis. The COVID pandemic was quite a revelation in many ways. A study from the University of Liverpool of 194 countries found that pandemic responses were systematically better in women-led countries. In another scientific study published in the American Psychological Association Journal, data shows that COVID-19 deaths were lower in states with a woman governor. Why is this so? This research has shown that women tend to think of the collective whole rather than themselves, making decisions that will benefit the public good. 3, women are and have been strong environmental organizers. I am a senior citizen already, but I still can remember the women heroes of my youth. Environmental heroes like Jane Goodall, who inspired public awareness about protecting our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, and other primates in their natural habitat. We need not go far to look for inspiring examples of women who are strong environmental organizers. Just look at the website of Green Convergence, and we can see that the Board of Trustees is more than 80% women. Rightfully so. Wouldn't you agree? Environmental pioneers in the Philippines, like one of your founders, Dr. Nina Galang, and your current president, Victoria Segovia, and many more in your Green Convergence board have made significant contributions to the environmental cause. In the world of mangroves, the favorite advocacy of my brother, Dr. Georgienne Primavera is acknowledged as the mother of mangroves in the Philippines. In the grassroots level, many of the people's organizations tasked with protecting and propagating mangroves and other marine ecosystems in the coastal communities are started and led by women, typically housewives of the local fishermen. We indeed have much to celebrate in this International Month of Women. In the invitation of Green Convergence for this forum, there are a handful of questions. Questions on what is our stand on important and controversial issues like large-scale mining, other land use changes and technologies like nuclear power and GMOs. Also, a question on what bills we would file or support to help the Philippines mitigate and adapt to climate change. In answering these questions, allow me first to provide an overview as to why the ML party list is running in the 2025 election for representation in the Philippine Congress. In doing so, we give a macro context or answers to the specific environmental and social issues. I, together with Teddy Bronner Bagilat from Ifugao Province and Erin Tanyada from Quezon Province, are the first nominees or the lead nominees of the Mamamayang Liberal Party List or ML Party List, the recently accredited sectoral arm of the Liberal Party of the Philippines. We in the ML Party List believe and applaud the vision of the distinguished framers of our 1987 Philippine Constitution when they provided for a party list system, which is an avenue originally designed to give marginalized sectors a voice in the legislative process. Sadly, over the years, we all know, we all see that the party list system has been abused and bastardized. We have seen in the past, especially in the more recent past, how the party list system have been used by groups that do not seem to represent any sector at all, as they claim to advocate for. Some have been put up by political dynasties, some with contractors and big business interests behind them. This very sad development needs to stop. That is why we in the ML party list, if we make it, would push for amendments for the reform of the party list system. In all humility and sincerity, we in the ML party list can and will provide the effective voice in Congress for the marginalized and underrepresented. The primary task of a member of Congress, as you know, is to legislate laws for common good. Take a look at the collective track record of Congressman Teddy Bagilat, Congressman Erin Tanyada, and myself as senator. Even while in unjust detention, I filed bills in the Senate that became laws of the land, like the 4Ps Law, the Magna Carta of the Poor, and the National Commission of Senior Citizens Act. Both Congressman Bagilat and Erin Tanyada are responsible for a number of House bills that became Republic Acts like Sagip Saka Act, Anti-Torture Act, People's Survival Fund, Renewable Energy Act, Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, and many more. Our legislative track record points to our abundant capability and willingness to craft legislation that will benefit or help the Filipino public, particularly the marginalized and underrepresented sectors. When we are back in the Philippine Congress, if we make it, we as nominees of ML Party List will craft House bills and file House resolutions that will benefit the marginalized sectors like the urban poor, indigenous peoples, senior citizens, PWDs, fishermen, and farmers. This is our guiding principle. This is our North Star. For example, we in the ML Party List clearly opposes the recent decision of the Supreme Court to allow commercial fishing in municipal waters as they are detrimental to the livelihood of the small fishermen and the community. We are in solidarity with small fishermen, non-negotiable. On the questions of the specific issues on large-scale mining, other land use changes, technologies like nuclear power, incinerator, and GMOs, the position of ML Party List is clearly that of supporting what benefits the marginalized sectors and opposing what are detrimental to those sectors. Real talk. Let us see what the positions of the ML Party List in the past that will surely be guiding our position in the present and future. On large-scale mining, Teddy Bagilat most recently opposed mining operations in Sibuyan, Romblon, due to the destruction of the local ecosystem and communities. Historically, Teddy Bagilat and Erin Tanyada have proposed bills to replace our existing mining laws, specifically with the aim to reduce foreign mining operations. Teddy Bagilat himself has proposed it at least twice, in 2012 and 2016. Me, De Lima, proposed a bill opposing black sand mining. Teddy Bagilat filed the National Land Use Bill in the House in 2016. The bill passed the House, but there hasn't been any news of it passing into law, implying it was blocked in the Senate. Senator De Lima, together with Senator Kiko Pangilinan, filed Senate Bill 38 in July 2019. Senate Bill 38 is an act instituting a national land use policy, providing the implementing mechanisms. Among many things, this bill was to ensure sustainable management, utilization of natural resources, and the harmony between the rights and the varied interests of every Filipino within the framework of people empowerment, decentralization, social justice, and equity. Currently, there is no land use law in place, just an assortment of executive orders. On nuclear energy, Erin Tanyada's grandfather, Senator Lorenzo Tanyada, was the father of the anti-nuclear energy movement in the Philippines during the Marcos Sr. years. Erin Tanyada was the author of the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, which has no mention of nuclear. In 2009, Erin Tanyada opposed the revival of the Bataan nuclear power plant. According to him, it would increase the energy costs of Filipinos, and the funds that would be used to revive the plant could go to the development of other, more sustainable sources of electricity, such as wind and geothermal. How about the question of what bills would I file or support to help our country mitigate and adapt to climate change? There are several bills, a number of bills, we in the ML party list plan to file when we are blessed to be elected into Congress. 2 bills are in my priority list. First, I plan to file a bill that addresses the issue of protection and safety for the many environmental defenders in the Philippines. In July 2019, I filed Senate Bill number 179, seeking to promote and protect the rights of human defenders. I plan to introduce a similar environmental defenders bill in the House of Representatives. It is a badly needed piece of legislation, given the killings and persecution of environmental activists in the Philippines, which became rampant during the reign of Duterte as president and even now in the current administration. Second, I plan to refile the National Land Use Bill, which I filed, SB 38, in 2019 when I was a senator, together with Senator Kiko Pangilinan. In addition, there have been a number of bills signed into law that looks on paper to be very good for the environment and will help our country mitigate and adapt in these climate change times. We need to review and assess their effectivity. One example is the Philippines Green Jobs Act, RA 10771, which was signed into law in April 17 during the time of President Pinoy Aquino. It is my plan to file a House resolution calling for a review or assessment of whether this Republic Act has indeed produced a sizable number of green jobs for the Filipino people. Do we have the educational infrastructure in place to make green jobs training or education more available to the Filipino youth? There you have it. My thoughts on the theme of this afternoon's Kamayan para sa Kalikasan Forum. Also, my answers to the questions. I hope you have found them helpful to the important conversation of women, environment, and governance. Again, my sincere thanks to the organizer, Green Convergence, and its leaders, staff, and volunteers for the honor of speaking in front of you, albeit via video. In closing, allow me 2 things. First, to request Green Convergence to continue feverishly its advocacy for the environment and a more equitable development for our country. God knows we need all the help on that front. Second, to encourage everyone to exercise our right to vote this May 2025. Vote wisely because the future of our beloved country depends on it. Vote wisely for our country and for our Mother Earth. Vote wisely for social justice and climate justice. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Diyos mabalos sa Indo Gabos.
Thank you to our panelists. What a productive panel discussion. Just before we start our open forum, let me just thank Attorney Calleja for reminding us that we have the power to make a difference and that this power rests on the right to choose our political leaders. I just hope that we will be able to make the majority of our voting population to choose wisely, and in this case, to choose leaders with the green lens or the green agenda. We also like to thank Ma'am Joyce. Salamat po sa pagbibigay diin sa kaugnayan ng climate change, global warming, at iba pang suliraning pangkapaligiran sa pagkatuto, yung relasyon ng mga ito sa pagkatuto ng mga bata sa sektor ng edukasyon. Nakakatawa ngang isipin na nung bata tayo, ang suspension lang ng classes ay nakabatay sa pagkakaroon ng bagyo.
Correct.
Paminsan-minsan, tama Mark, paminsan-minsan ay paglindol sa mga ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas. Ngayon ay meron na tayong heat wave advisory. Tapos nung nakaraan, kung maalala ninyo, ay yung may yung Tagaytay, Taal Volcano na affect ang Metro Manila kasi yung fumes coming from the volcano. At hindi lang yon, meron din yung smog na nakaapekto sa Metro Manila. So ang dami-dami ng mga
Factors.
factors na hindi lang iisa ngayon. We're being the educational sector is very much affected by all these the things that are happening. We also would like to thank Senator De Lima for being with us, albeit virtually. The effort to be with us is very much appreciated. We also thank her for the affirmation that she gives Green Convergence and the work that is being done by the organization. I hope that Senator De Lima's video presentation, help you to be, you have picked up some inspiring insights about our worth as women for all the women out there and the young ladies. And I hope it has moved all the women out there also that we have this agency which we can use in the promotion of good governance, climate justice, and sustainable development. Bibigyan ko lang ng diin na natutuwa ako because of Senator De Lima's intention to file a bill for the protection and safety of environmental defenders. So I think we're ready for our open forum to hear the pulse of our participants both on Zoom and on Facebook live stream. We will open the floor to questions, reactions, and takeaways that we want our panelists to address. To ask a question or share a comment, you may raise your hand if you like to speak and we'll call on you to unmute. Or type your question or comment in the chat box and I will read it for you or Mark will read it. Once called, please do the following. You unmute your microphones right away. Introduce yourself by stating your name, organization, school, or location. Clearly state your question and mention who it is directed to. We will take as many questions as time permits, following a first-come, first-served basis. So let's get started. Pwede na po. The floor is open.
Yes, all right, May. To add also, you might want to also ask Senator De Lima. Our line with Attorney De Lima's team is very open. Should you have any question, you can send it to us and we will forward it to Senator or Attorney De Lima's team.
Yes.
Now is the time to ask any more question from the floor, from our audience. And also from our participants from Facebook, feel free to ask your question or comment your questions through our chat box, and I'd be happy to read it. Or was the presentation crystal clear? We have one. Miss Tessa, go ahead.
Yes. I'm Tessa Oliva of Green Convergence. Well, I'd like to thank all our panelists, no, for giving us their views. But I would like to focus most especially on nuclear energy because right now it seems that the Philippines is going to it, no? Our decision makers are headed to introduce nuclear power here in the Philippines. I'd like to know if ever we are going to it, what are the plans to make it safe, or are there plans to stop it, or what are the plans of our candidates? So I'd like to address it to both Attorney Calleja and Ms. Cabuat. Cabuat, is that right?
Kaubat.
Kaubat, okay, Miss Joyce.
Yes.
Sige po. Siguro po ako po muna, then si Miss. So, unang-una, ang pananaw po ni Senator Heidi Mendoza sa usaping nuclear power ay ito ay isang hidden threat. So, nuclear power is often presented as clean, efficient source of energy. On the surface, maraming advantages ang pwedeng makuha dito. So, because it really provides large amounts of energy. Pero may katapat ito. So, meron itong long-lasting risks, meron itong potential catastrophic effects tulad nung sa Chernobyl, sa Fukushima, at iba pa. No? So, meron talaga siyang katapat. So, but beyond the risks, meron din, of course, yung saan natin ilalagay ang mga radioactive materials produced by the nuclear reactors, given the hazardous yung mga wastes na ito. And it lasts not only hundreds sa pag-aaral, even thousands of years. Ano yan? Delikado. So, anong mga pwede natin gawin? So, ang sabi nga po kanina, may move yung mga mambabatas natin para isaligal ito. So, we will try our best to convince them na hindi pa napapanahon ito para sa atin. No? So, pero, siyempre, andyan pa rin yung tinatawag natin na political question. No? So, sa batas kasi, kapag sinasabi natin political question, kahit questionin natin ito sa husgado, sa Korte Suprema, kapag ang nag-decide ay Congress at walang mga batas na violate, walang grave abuse of discretion, ito ay isa pa ring ipapatupad pa rin itong isang batas. Siguro, ang pwede nating gawin ay balikan natin yung mga batas that protect the environment. So, ang mga protection sa batas ay they are all protections for the environment. Wala pa siyang protections for the people. So siguro ko, and isa kayong environmental group, so you can easily enumerate kung ano-ano yung mga existing laws to protect the environment. No? So andyan yung Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, andyan yung National Integrated Protected Area System, andyan yung Clean Water Act, at kung ano-ano pa. Pero sa usaping nuclear power, even the people themselves, tayo mismo ay kailangan protektahan, hindi lang yung environment. So wala pa tayong specific na law to protect our own citizenry. So kailangan natin yan sa Senado, kailangan natin yan sa ating legislative. So kung sakaling papasa ang nuclear power bill at mag-iisang itong batas, imumungkahi natin sa Kamara na tayo ay magkaroon ng isang batas para protektahan hindi lang ang kalikasan, pati na rin ang mga tao at panagutin kung sino man ang dapat managot dahil ito ay isang hindi birong usapin pagdating sa usaping pangkalusugan. Maraming salamat po.
Alright, Attorney JP, maraming salamat. Any comment from other guest or speaker, presenter? Miss Joyce,
Hello. Yes po.
please go ahead.
Thank you so much, attorney. Yes, thank you, attorney, for laying out also about this issue, no, as well as Senator De Lima. She actually pointed out a lot about the nuclear uh, power bill nga rin po, no. So I think in our part, no, as educators, malaki din po talagang role namin. And of course, if we are going to be part of the next Congress again, as ACT Teachers Party List, we are also one with the people, no, with the call. About the call, no, to first ay magkaroon pa rin po muna ng at least, no, meron po tayong let's say malaking tinatawag na ano, no, impact assessments, right? We should call for a national environmental impact assessments on nuclear power and other energy projects to determine their long-term risks, no? So we are aware, no, that um, this kind of move, no, to revive especially the Bataan nuclear power plant as one, no, one source of energy. Uh, it also yun nga imposes risk, and tama po si Attorney Calleja, no. There's no bill, no, or law, existing law that also mandates, no, mandates ensuring the safety of our people from the impacts of these large scale um, energy projects, no? And then also, we can also support a transition to clean or renewable energy. So pwede nating mas palakasin yung ating panawagan sa mas safe, no, mas secure na paraan ng pag-generate ng energy um, na lalong-lalo na sa isang bansa na katulad natin, ano, Pilipinas, na maraming possibilities for potential, I mean, for the renewable energy, no? So we should advocate for public funding of the renewable energy projects instead of um, opening it for investments, you know, foreign investments. We should call for nationalization of the energy industry, no? So we also hear a lot of issues about our energy corporations being privatized, and even um, it is being infiltrated, no? I'm sorry for the term, no, but it looks like that. Infiltrated by some other foreign entities then, no? That we don't know what could be the effect, no? If the energy industry uh, will be uh, will be controlled, no? By not the Filipinos but other um, nationalities, no? So, dapat ay maiano natin, no? Maikampanya natin yung mas malaking, yung nga, yung mga long-term solutions like national industrialization, uh, mas ang dapat nating bigyan ng pag-aaral ay yung ano pa yung mga magiging impact nito sa mas matagal na ano, no, na panahon, hindi lang sa environment at yun nga pati na rin sa mga Filipino, no. So iyon po yung isa naming nakikita, no, mula sa amin, no, sa ACT Teachers Party List. And syempre dahil pa rin sa mga maraming mga risks na puwedeng ng simula ng ganitong mga bill na balak ulit na ano, no, or balak talaga nilang ipatupad, no. So kailangan talaga nating magkaroon ng unity, no, among each other, among all the sectors, no, to at least call for moratorium kung sakaling maipatupad yan, and call for a national impact assessment, no, kumbaga ito muna yung dapat unahin, no? National Environmental Impact Assessment ng lahat ng mga possible na makakaapekto sa environment at sa mga tao. Hindi po dapat na minamadali yung ganitong mga batas na hindi nagkakaroon ng malawakang pag-aaral, pagkukonsulta sa mga sa iba't ibang mga sektor na sahanin ng iba't ibang mga sektor. So yun po yung maidadagdag ko sa discussion. Thank
All
you po.
right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
po.
I actually received phone in question, but I will allow Doc Nina Galang to ask first
Okay.
because I think I received also one question from our chat box. Please go ahead, Doc Nina.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad Joyce suggested this national environmental impact assessment of various technologies and programs. I think that's very, very much needed. Of course, that will be very broad, no? Because there are so many. But with regard to technologies which are in themselves inherently bad or dangerous, I'm glad that Heidi Mendoza is an accountant because she's going to see, for example, that nuclear energy is actually not only environmentally dangerous, but economically unsound. It's so expensive, contrary to what they say that it's cheap. It's cheap only because in other countries which use it, it's subsidized, very heavily subsidized. And so we will be putting money into an industry which is dangerous and which can be replaced anyway by the renewable energy that we have so much of, solar, wind, geothermal, ocean. You know, it's as an accountant, she will see that money will be better spent on these safe technologies. And for Miss Franz Castro, I hope maparating ni Joyce that if our people were educated on the risks of these inherently wrong technologies, we will be united as you're calling for, that we should say no to these technologies which are crazy in the sense that, there are so many other alternatives for them. Why go into these dangerous technologies and programs? Thank you and good luck to all our candidates.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mark, there's something in the chat box. We're okay. So maybe I can just read something from a question from the chat box. This is from Anja Paule. And I personally commend that the candidates mentioned the protection on women, environmental, and human rights defenders. Recently, there has been an increase on the killings of words. One of its factors is the anti-terror law. In connection to this, what are your legislative plans on the anti-terror law?
Yeah, so maybe I can answer it po muna. First of all, the anti-terror law was still a bill. We opposed it. So in fact, if you go to the Supreme Court, the title of the case that questioned its constitutionality is Calleja versus Executive Secretary. So we argued before the court and we opposed the passage of the anti-terror law for being unconstitutional. But the Supreme Court did not totally declare it unconstitutional. There are, I think, three or four provisions under the law that were declared unconstitutional. But in totality, the Supreme Court said that the policy of the government of the legislature to legislate an anti-terror law is constitutional. It's a political question. It is left to the wisdom of the legislature. So, uh, do we have any legislative plan on the anti-terror law? Well, first of all, the anti-terror law does not authorize the killing of individuals, no? So, uh, hindi naman siya pwedeng gamitin na para siyang koplang tukhang and justify the killings like, especially by the women, environmental, and human rights defenders, that you kill them or any person uh, because they are labeled as terrorists. That is not the way the anti-terror law is couched. No? So there is still due process. So there is due process must be given. Even in terms of jailing people, there's a certain number of hours that must be respected. So if my in fact my question is there already a classification that the women environmental and human rights defenders considered as terrorists? So, because there is a government agency, it's called the ATC, the Anti-Terrorism Council, which is mostly from the executive department that declares or that tags individuals and groups as terrorists or groups in aid of terrorists. So, kung hindi naman tayo doon na tag, eh, hindi dapat tayo kabahan or because the anti-terror law should not supplant the rights given under the Constitution. So, yun lamang po. At kung meron man, sigurado po ako na ito ay isang paglabag sa batas. So, when the law was passed, it is not meant to be a justification for warrantless arrest, red tagging, or any other uh, mode to desecrate the life, liberty, and property of individuals. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Calleja. May idadagdag pa ho ba doon?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I would also like to add also, same with the Attorney Calleja and their group then, no, we also opposed the bill, no, before it was turned into a law. Talagang strongly, we strongly opposed din as well, no? But then when it became a law, so syempre, patuloy pa rin naman yung ating mga panawagan, no? But in 2022, just to ano lang, recall din po, in 2022, the Makabayan Bloc, no, composed of representatives from Kabataan Party List, Gabriela Women's Party, and Actors Party List, also filed the bill seeking the repeal of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, no? So, because yun nga, mainly it's the broad definitions, no, could lead to abuses, and we saw a lot of the cases, the rampant cases ng killings, no, and even women defenders, no, young activists, they were being accused as terrorists, no? So the seeking of the repeal is to actually, of course, target those that are, yun nga, sabi ni Attorney Calleja, no? Tag as terrorist, but dapat may mga concrete, ano muna, no? May mga concrete na evidences muna, no? Not just punishing them based on intent, no, or based on affiliations, no, especially nga kung sila nga ay tinatag na nasa left, mga leftist organizations, no, na usually ay nagiging victim din ng red tagging, no, and also additionally the anti-red tagging bill, no, or isa na rin pong batas nun para kasuhan ang mga gumagamit ng ganitong klase ng tactics, no, to red tag and then to put the lives in peril, no, ng ating mga activists, ng mga unionists, no. So isa rin pong naging paraan yon, no, to counter, to have a check and balance din sa anti-terrorism law, no? No, meron din po tayong mga final na mga batas para mag-secure, no, mag-safeguard ng mga karapatan ng ating mga ng taong bayan, no, na hindi dapat magamit sa kanila itong anti-terror act, anti-terror law, no, dahil lang sa mga sa dissent, no, dahil sa mga sa pangunguna nila sa mga laban, lalong-lalo na kung ito kahit lalo na sa mga environmental issues, no, na alam natin ay lahat naman ay apektado, pero bakit nagiging target yung mga environmental defenders natin? Ayun po. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think one last question from Miss Mila.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about the different environmental issues that we have this afternoon. My question will focus on the somehow disconnect between the Organic Agriculture Act and the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act. Because in one hand, we are gearing and we are hopefully supposedly encouraging organic agriculture, and yet the government is into biotechnology like the genetically modified organisms in agriculture. And we know that GMOs in or the in sometimes we call them the LMOs, no, living modern organisms. We know already that if they are uh, released into the environment, they can actually somehow, no, infect or affect the traditional varieties. And there are already voluminous studies that show that in terms of the health of the crops coming from these GMOs are not good and even detrimental to the health of the people. And so far we have been um, fighting it out. No, the CSOs, even Greenpeace, Green Convergence, we fought when golden the BT Talong was supposedly about to be commercialized, and even with the golden rice issue. How will you somehow in once you are voted or you are elected into Congress, how will you reconcile this major disconnect between the two acts? Uh, that's all.
So, first, let us first acknowledge also that there are already some laws that are in place to somehow bridge the gap between the Organic Act, which typically refers to laws that promote and regulate organic farming, ensuring that agricultural practices are environmentally friendly, health conscious, and sustainable. So there have been efforts. Let me just mention for at least three laws that somehow bridge the gap between genetically modified organisms and the Organic Act of the Philippines, one of which is the National Biosafety Framework of 2001. So this is a law that established a regulatory framework for the safe use of GMOs in the Philippines, ensuring that their introduction does not harm human health, biodiversity, and the environment. So there's also an executive order. It's called EO 514. This was in 2006, which provides the guidelines for the safe and regulated, dapat regulated, introduction of GMOs in the country. So this includes research, testing, commercial planting of genetically modified crops. And lastly, there are some Department of Agriculture regulations called the Biosafety Guidelines for GMOs. So these are implemented by the Department of Agriculture and other government agencies to ensure that or all GMOs undergo a thorough assessment before it can be released for public use. So you have the National Biosafety Framework of 2001, you have EO 514, and you also have the Department of Agriculture regulations. Now, all of these GMO laws in the Philippines, diba? These are research-heavy laws. So, kailangan pag-aralan lagi yung mga GMOs na ini-introduce natin for public. So, isa dyan yung sinasabi natin, yung talong. So, one of the things that we are proposing, especially Senator Heidi Mendoza, is to augment the budget in, hopefully, no, so kung tayo papalarin, to augment the budget in our research, no? So, because these are important things na pag-aralan ng ating mga government agencies kung ang GMOs ba ay makasasama sa ating uh, that will harm human health, biodiversity, and the environment. So, kailangan bang amyendahan ang mga batas na ito? Siguro. Pero kailangan natin ng datos. So, we are not claiming that these laws are already perfect, no? So, kailangan i-amyendahan ito, kailangan bisitahin sa pamamagitan ng siyensya at teknolohiya, through science and technology. Because without science, without technology, then there's no way for us to determine whether a particular GMO is harmful, whether it can be used for public use. So these laws are potent, these laws are practical only when we do scientific research on every GMO. Maraming salamat po.
Hello? May I add din po?
Yes, please.
Yes po. I remember also in the recent years then about there was something about golden rice, no? I believe the Green Convergence is also familiar about this issue, no? About the IRI, no? Yung International Rice Research Institute's development of golden rice, a genetically modified rice variety enriched with beta carotene or vitamin A nga daw, no? I remember that some of the farmers raised concerns, and even the scientists also worked together with them, not to come up with the calls, or kumbaga yung mga paraan po, no, para ma-address itong issue na to. So na ano ko lang, no, na alala ko lang din po sa binanggit ni Senator De Lima na nandun tayo sa mga batas na makakatulong sa mga sector natin, no, sa mga farmers, sa fishermen, sa mga ano natin, mga workers and all sectors. So kung sa tingin natin ito ay makakatulong, or ito ay direktang makakatulong sa kanila, susuportahan natin. Pero kung sila mismo ang nag-raise ng concern, no, sa ganitong klaseng mga alam naman din natin na yes, it's technology advancement din ang ganitong klaseng mga programa, no, but it could also lead to increased corporate control over agriculture, no, undermining traditional farming practices and food sovereignty, no. So alam natin na lalong-lalo na ngayon na marami pa rin yung sa ating mga magsasaka yung walang programa na sumusuporta sa kanila sa mga produkto na kanilang mga itinatanim or maaring maitanim, no. At ito ay yun nga, nabubulok, no. Nakikita natin nalulugi ang mga magsasaka natin kahit sa usapin din ng pagbebenta ng palay, no. So ibig sabihin po, nakikita rin natin na hindi lang ito about advancement ng sciences, which is, I think tama rin naman po na dapat mas malaki rin yung maging budget sa research para dito talaga, na para makita natin kung ano yung mga pros and cons talaga nito, na mas malawak na research na ano, no, na funded ng government, hindi lagi ng foreigner, no. So syempre merong mga interests lagi diyan, ang foreign investors, no, ang malalaking mga corporate companies na mas nauuna yung negosyo kesa sa ano, no, sa serbisyo para sa tao. So yun naman po yung pinaniniwalaan din namin from our side na mga pro people, no, ng mga sectors. Pakinggan natin, no, lumahok tayo sa mga communities, maging kaisa tayo sa kanilang mga town hall meetings, or even sa kanilang pagbubungkalan, no, meron po silang mga ganitong mga programs, at doon natin matututunan talaga kung ano yung kanilang mga sentimiento, no, yung kanilang mga batayang dahilan, no, para mag-oppose, or kung gusto nilang masubukan ng isang programa nangangailangan po sila rin ng mga professionals, ng mga experts, mga scientists, even educators, even lawmakers to listen to them. No? So yun po rin yung dapat din nating bigyan din ng importansya, I guess, yung boses din po mismo ng sector when it comes to these kinds of programs. And yeah, tama rin po yung tinanong ni Ma'am, no, na paano rin ma-augment yung ganitong iba yung gusto ng taong mangyari kung organic agriculture na iba yung gusto nating mapayaman ng mga programa, mapayaman yung research, no, mapaunlad pa natin. Pero ang gobyerno ay may ibang direksyon tulad nga ng mas nagli-lean towards sa corporatization ng mga ng agriculture. So lagi nating unahin yung food security ng bansa, no? At kung ano po talaga yung mga kailangan natin na crops na para talaga sa ating pangangailangan at hindi rin pa for export lang din, no? At hindi rin tayo mag-rely heavily sa import kung lalo na yung sa rice tarification law, no? Na talagang bumaha yung mga imported na mga bigas at nalugi ang ating mga farmers. So yun, may mga ganitong mga nangyayari dahil sa pagsasabatas ng mga ito, nahihirapan lalo yung mga farmers natin. So kami rin, aktibo din po yung pag-oppose namin sa mga batas na nakakasagka dun sa kabuhayan, karapatan ng ating mga sektor.
All right.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Binibining Joyce and Attorney JP. What a meaty and informative discussion. In as much as we want to push through with some of our questions from phone-in questions and Facebook, we had to cut our open forum for our part 2. But please stay put. We will be having our photo op. Once again, maraming salamat, Attorney JP and Miss Joyce. And please also send our sincerest regards to Teacher Franz and of course Commissioner Heidi, and of course maraming salamat po Attorney Laila De Lima for participating with us despite you being unable to really be with us live, but you sent your video with us today. Now is the time for our group photo shot. May I ask Mabet for our photo op? Please give us a cue and we'll follow your direction.
Okay, kindly open your camera. Have our official group photo. Ayan. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There's 1, 2, 3. Maraming salamat po.
Once again, maraming salamat po on behalf of GC, BOT and GC Group. Maraming salamat Miss Joyce and Attorney JP. All the best at maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat.